Hello and welcome back to March's podcast. Unfortunately, once again, I'm here only with Scott. However, we do have interesting topics today. We're going to start off with the comments. Again, we're just going to have a quick scroll through of the comments that's been made over the last month and see if there's any that leap out at us. We have already picked a few to get us started and we'll discuss these, and then I think we're going to be discussing really it's like when we last looked at the highway code and the changes that have come in. It's not something you really think about. So if you want to pick up your first comment, Scott, if you've found one.
Right, well, I found a comment here straight away from our friend Lemon Fresh. And the question was, did you ever travel on a Transpeak before the service was withdrawn? Do you think it will ever be replaced? I travelled on that service from Derby to Manchester dozens of times, miss it dearly. Now, for what people may need to know is that the Transpeak service used to be Manchester city centre all the way up to Nottingham. It was a very good service at the time, but unfortunately, our Lemon Fresh, I never travelled on that service at all. But I've heard lots of good things about it, and unfortunately, due to the lack of passengers, which have been told many times, the service will never operate to Manchester or to Nottingham again due to lack of customers. If the service hasn't got the relevant customers or passengers on board to make it cost effective, and unfortunately that's what happens if something's not cost effective. Then obviously the company's look into this and decide the best thing to do is going to just shorten the service or shorten the route, or alternatively pull the route entirely. Just one more thing for our Lemon Fresh is, I've noticed there's another question asking when the next podcast is scheduled. The podcasts we're hoping to get a podcast out on the 1st of every month. That is the hoping and praying that obviously everything goes to plan. But obviously, as far as I'm aware, it will be the 1st of every month that the new podcast will be released.
Well, that's what we're always going to be aiming for anyway. Yeah, it is the 1st. Yeah. Right. A new one in here is the 3 Monarch P Clips, who asked on a video it's quite an old video. It's from back when I was elsewhere, but the base of the question is there voice recorders in the cab? Because obviously we as professional drivers are supposed to be acting professional at all times, and 99% of the time we are, but he wants to know that basically, is there a microphone in the cab or at all that then can be used against you when driving? And the simple answer is yes. The microphones are hidden around the cab. Not hidden in the sense of we don't know where they are. We all know they've got them. But they're just out the way, and they do record. They record quite a bit, don't they, Scott, really? They pick up quite a distance. It's not a sort of like only the driver, but yeah, essentially they do. And you can, if someone reported the driver for effing and jeffing, any company would take a disciplinary action against a driver for that because it's unprofessional.
All I'm going to do, sorry, John, all I'm going to say on that matter is the CCTVs on a lot of company vehicles, no matter what company they are for, yes, they are all audio and visual recorded. It's there to protect the driver, but it's also there to protect the customer. We can't tell you where the cameras are, and we can't tell you where the microphones are which record. What I will tell you for a personal experience is that them audio recordings are very, very clear.
Yes,
and you can sometimes hear passengers chatting at the rear of the vehicle.
Yes.
I think really that is all we can say on that matter, is that yes, they've got audio, yes, they do record, and yes, they're there for 2 reasons. one is to protect the public, and two to protect the driver.
Yeah, that sums it up pretty well, really. Have you found another one? If not, I've got another one.
The other one I've got is, again, our lemon fresh. He's quite popular with us, which I'm not complaining about. It's nice to be popular, it's nice to be liked.
When he finds it.
It was about eco-buses. 2
Oh.
weeks ago. And it says, if the fuel bill's been reduced, then will Stagecoach reduce theirs? Unfortunately, again, we don't work for Stagecoach, and we don't know what happens with theirs. That's none of our business, unfortunately.
But
that's down to individual operators doing what they think's right and do what they want to do. Again, there's nothing we can really comment on that, unfortunately.
Well, there isn't. It's they will use less fuel, but they've still got to charge the things up. So they've still got to pay a bill for electricity. So electricity is expensive, especially in a commercial environment. So you're saving money somewhere, but then they're costing it somewhere else. And that's the best way of putting it.
I don't think the eco buses, to be personally, or my personal opinion, is to save money. They're there more so to make the environment a bit greener.
Yes.
To lower their carbon footprint. I think that is what they're there for. That is what they're aiming to do. So obviously the cost of it, especially what's going on across the world at the minute, electricity prices have gone through the roof. Everybody's going to be feeling the pinch. So I don't think in turn it's going to save anybody any money. What I do think it's going to do is have a better impact on the planet.
Yeah, but don't you find it weird that we've gone from the day of age where we had electric buses, then we went to diesel buses, and now we're trying to go back to electric buses? Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay, the electric buses we had were, you had to have a massive overhead gantry system, but they were electric.
I think, Jordan, what you need to think of is times have changed. And technology's evolved and technology's changing daily. And I think that's what it all boils down to.
Yeah.
Back when we had trolley buses up with attached, you could have basically called them a tram, not a trolley bus, because they were trams.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah. If you look back now, obviously, look how far we've got. We've got vehicles out on the road. You've got McGill's of Scotland. You've got, obviously, Stagecoach in Manchester. You've got Go North. It's Go North East.
Yeah,
they've got
electrics.
Yeah, they've all got fleets of electric vehicles, and it's the technology now which they're using, which is obviously better. The more equipped, you're getting more miles to a charge.
Yeah, it's the battery technology.
To a charge. So technology's changed all the time. So yeah, you can say about trams, but I think that's obviously that's what's going on there.
Yeah. Next is Robocop 33. I'm just about to start my bus training with a company. I personally haven't been on a bus for maybe 20 years as I have a car. I have a really basic, silly question. No question is too silly. If one person wants to ask it, then there's guaranteed to be others. If someone gets on at a stop and asks wherever you're going on a route, how do you know instantly how much to charge them for that distance? Say, if they're paying cash. The ticket machines in this day and age have also come on a long way, just like eco buses have, and everything is on the ticket machine. Most passengers will ask for a road or a place, which is normally a stage, well-known place, and it's normally a stage in the machines, and that's how you can tell. Essentially, you do have to do the maths yourself, unfortunately, but there is aid still there for you to help you with your maths if need be. But you get used to it, don't you, Scott? It's sort of like the same fares for the same amount of money, and you just sort of get used to what change you need to give out.
What you'll do is you'll realise, obviously, it's a weird and wonderful game out there when you first start the bus, and 9 times out of 10 you're going to charge the wrong fare.
Yes.
You're not going to overcharge, you're going to undercharge a fare.
Yeah, you normally end up undercharging, yes.
because you just go, right, I think it's there. And I used to always go for the cheaper and lower fare. The simple reason I used to do that is A, because I don't want any conflict between a passenger or a complaint, and B, because I'm sure the company prefer you to charge the wrong lower fare than the wrong higher fare, because it's something they'll have to rectify in the future.
Yes.
I mean, once you're on the road, you've done your route learning, give it 4 weeks and you'd be a bash hand at knowing every single fare.
Until
every single fare stage going from A to B to C to D.
Until someone gets on and goes, I'm going to my house.
Exactly.
I won't be very clear on where my house is.
But if you're what's it called, if you're going into a position where you're going to be driving for a company or for a bus company and you're going in for your test, and obviously good luck, all the best. I'm sure obviously put your head down and concentrate, you'll do it. Don't panic when you're out on the road. You'll have a mentor for the 2 weeks. And if you're not sure after the 2 weeks, just tell your supervisor or manager you're not happy going out your own. And they will, I'm sure, give you more training.
Yes.
So, there's nothing to panic about or worry about.
I definitely get the get your driving out the way first and worry about the rest once you've passed and actually out on the road.
Concentrate on your driving and everything else will fall into place as it goes along.
There's
I'm sorry, but I'm having a look through these things now and I'm looking and thinking, right, what is the comment, what is the question, all the rest of the stuff. I see all them impressions obviously made a comment. It's not a question, no, sorry, it's referenced the podcast. It was really loaded with A. That's something we can only apologise for. It wasn't done purposely or intentionally. It's obviously just a minor hiccup, and obviously in something it must have been either my device or Jordan's device, whatever it was.
It's my mic.
I do apologise. That obviously the audio was low. Hopefully this time round, the audio should be a lot better, is what we're hoping. If it's not, then obviously we're going to have to look at potentially recording this on another platform.
I think it was my...
go from there.
Yeah, I'd turned my mic down for something else and just hadn't turned it back up, and it was quite far away. I think that's it. There was one that but it's not really it's a bit of a question, but also a bit of a statement. But I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his name, and it's right on the limit because it was 4 weeks ago. It's about anti-social behaviour on the buses. It only gets worse as society continues to go backwards. Night buses in London can be dodgy. And I have to admit, been a bit nervous a few times over the years, but they can also be a lot of fun if you've got a good crowd. But what do? Trouble is, with kids watch TV and they know now what they can get away with. How often do you see 70-year-olds with 30 convictions who've never spent a day inside? They're just a progress with word I can't say for the rest of their lives. If you're in the UK, you see all types of real police shows, and go and admit half the time you don't just want to click your fingers and make them vanish out of existence. Now, some of that is the night bus. I do want to sort of address that one, because I've had people that when I used to do night buses, they didn't want to make a scene, but wasn't very happy on the vehicle that I was driving, but they didn't at the same point then want to come tell me, the driver. And if you ever feel nervous on a bus because someone's harassing you or whatever, then go tell the driver. Don't sit there, especially on a night bus or even during the day. I've had people come up to me and go, look, this guy's smoking, and then they stay sat downstairs or whatever, and it gives you a chance to deal with something rather than that. But again, if you're going to deal with it, don't put yourself in harm's way, because it's just stupid. Don't do anything that risks your job. But yeah, it was a female on a night bus for me that felt uncomfortable with a fella that was sat near her, and she just fell asleep in the end.
Jordan, before we carry on, I don't know if you've got a signal issue or anything like that, but listening to you talking now, you are a little bit...
No, it will be audible on my side. Yes, it was female and a bloke sat near her. She wasn't that happy She ended up falling asleep halfway through the route, and she didn't want to raise a scene or make a scene, but she was just uneasy. And I told her the same as what I've just said there. You know, never feel like you're going to cause an issue by telling the driver or raising a concern with the driver. If you feel uneasy, especially night bus or female and guy and all that, even the other way around, then you don't just sit there and take it, do you? I don't know how to word that really.
A lot of people who get on buses who, like you said, Jordan, don't like to cause a scene and don't like confrontation. I think confrontation is the word you're looking for.
Yes.
They'd rather sit there with the head down and not get involved in anything and not report anything than report something what's going on. I think that's what it is. I think it's down to confrontation. I mean, look at these days, you're told do not get out of your cab for any circumstances these days, because 9 times out of 8, well, let's just say a lot of the time, if you get out your cab, you're going to be causing confrontation. You don't know what somebody's carrying. The amount of knife crime what's on the up in the UK at the minute is just unbelievable. You don't know what's going to happen to you. Just stay in the cab, 390, get the police out, and let them deal with the little darlings. And as you said, and as the comment states, the police will come along, slap the wrist, and send them on the way. Within 4 to 5 hours, we'll be back out doing it again. As for reprobates causing issues on vehicles and buses, personally, I've not had many situations where I've had that happen. I think I've been a fairly lucky person. I've had one window smash once on the bus. I've had people shouting and screaming and kicking off on the bus, and I've dealt with it, in my opinion, in a fair and calm and, well, what's the word for it?
Calm manner, professional manner.
Yeah, calm, professional, effective manner, and I've been very diplomatic the way I've dealt with it. Let's say diplomatic's the word.
A lot of the time, as a driver, you just have to sit there and take it. You can't react to it.
I mean, a lot of the time, if you do get any issues, just let it go through your left ear and out the right ear, and have done with it. That's the best thing you can do.
Yeah, I think that's covered that. So we'll get on to Highway Code, because this is going to be a shorter one, because it's just the two of us anyway. Right. Now, we came up with this idea just after we finished recording last month's one, and we seem to have a habit of doing this. But it was about the Highway Code, and the changes have come into the Highway Code this was it? It was this month one, which changed the hierarchy of who has priority on the roads.
Right, Jordan, let me just stop you there 1 second. Yeah, hierarchy on there. Before we go any further, obviously with a conversation about obviously hierarchy on the road and what changes to the Highway Code. Firstly, I'm not a salesperson, and I'm not going to tell people to go out there and buy Highway Code.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, but for the price of what a Highway Code is, it's worth buying a Highway Code, keeping it in your bag, keep it in your car, or just keeping it somewhere, and every now and again just have a flick through the pages and just refresh yourself on a couple of little rules of the road. It's going to sound really boring to do, and it's going to sound really, really ridiculous of a conversation to have. But for a matter of £4.50 to £4.99 for a Highway Code, where you can just pick it up at your leisure and have a quick flick through, I think it's £5 worth spending. Because everybody, it's going to be information for everybody. There's rules of the road, and there's things that people forget all the time. It's one of them things where you might come to a sign in the road and you think, what the hell is that? And you haven't got a clue.
Well,
but you'll get home and you'll go online, or you go, oh shit.
Yeah, when the fine comes through the door because you've gone through a bus gate.
I mean, they're not expensive.
No.
At all. It's worth looking into purchasing one. It's worth having a read of one, and it's worth just having one.
And keeping your knowledge up to date on the different road signs, because some road signs you won't see for donkey's years, and you'll drive somewhere and see that road sign and you'll be like, oh, what does that mean? But yeah, so as Scott was saying, it is well worth it. obviously the
Well,
hierarchy, the rules have changed now. I don't know if you've got them up, Scott, or not, or do you want me just to quickly Google them up?
right, I can get them up. But basically, what it is the Highway Code. There was 8 changes. They introduced the Highway Code on the 29th of January 2022. Just in short, the first one was hierarchy of road users.
Did
The
this?
second,
Yeah,
now we've got. I'll go through all of them, and then we'll have a conversation about
yeah.
all of them. So you've got rule one. It's the hierarchy of road users. Things have changed ever so slightly, but we'll go through them. Rule number 2: people crossing the road at junctions. Again, stupid rule, but we'll go through that in a second. Walking, cycling, riding in shared spaces. There's a new highway code for that. So it's not just about drivers, drivers, lorry drivers, truck drivers, professional drivers, and taxi drivers. It's also about people who can go walking, riding, or cycling, riding horses and stuff in shared spaces. Fourth one is positioning the road when cycling. The fifth one is overtaking when driving or cycling. The sixth one is people cycling at junctions. Number 7 is people cycling, riding a horse, and driving a horse-drawn vehicles on roundabouts. And the last final one is number 8, which is parking, charging, and leaving vehicles. So I'll go through the first one, Jordan, and then you can obviously make your mind up, and obviously you can go through the rest.
I was just going to say before we start, it's important to understand what the highway code means and what is enforceable by law and what isn't.
Yeah.
And the simple definition of it is the word "you must" is generally backed up by law in some way, and you can be fined or whatever for it. And "you should" is, well, exactly what it says. It's not enforceable by law, and that's as simple as that goes. And that's what a lot of people forget, and that's something that is also need to be remembered. So if you want to go through the start of it, because the one I've got up is not very good, it's a DirectGov site.
Click right. Because the one I've got up doesn't actually give me the full rundown of it.
We're well prepared here, aren't we? Well prepared.
It gives me a lot. It gives me a lot of information. But it's not the site I was looking at last week, because the site I was on last week actually give you every single bit of rule. Right.
The rule, the hierarchy of road users. There's 3 H rules, and it's basically important that all road users are aware of the highway codes. Now, your road users, Scott said, if you're walking. But basically it puts a different onus on who has priority, and this is another important thing, is who has priority, not right of way. There's no such thing as right of way. You have a priority over someone else, and you wouldn't just pull in front of someone because you have right of way, you know. So, but I can't find. I've seen the list and I can't find.
Right.
The list.
Right. The list I've got, for whatever reason, all it says is the instruction section of the Highway Code has been updated to include 3 new rules about the new hierarchy of road users. Now, I don't have that to plan, so I can't really
say what the hierarchy is. That's what I was looking for.
Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can find it on my phone.
Sorry, guys. This is we were somewhat planned for this.
Right. So the hierarchy of road. Right. So here we go. The hierarchy sits down to road users, and it goes as this: the most highest one is pedestrians. So it goes pedestrians are the highest in the hierarchy. Number 2 is cyclists. Number 3 is horse riders. Number 4 is motorcyclists. Then you've got number 5, which is cars and taxis. 6, which is vans and minibuses. And then number 7, large passenger vehicles or courier vehicles like buses and HGVs.
Madness, innit?
It change ever so slightly. It changes, which they're not good changes, in my opinion.
I think the opinion of most people is they're not the best of changes. So so that's the hierarchy was in, but then people crossing the road at junctions was the other rule that changed, and it was when people are waiting to cross at a junction, other traffic should give way. That's an important piece of that word there was should. If people have started crossing and the traffic wants to turn into the road, then people crossing have priority and the traffic should give way. That doesn't mean just because it says should you can just plough over them. You should actually give way. People driving, riding, motorcycles, cycling must give way. There's that other important word, must give way to people on a zebra crossing and people walking and cycling on a parallel crossing. We know there's a road user that won't do that, but my personal opinion to that is it's a bit of a stupid rule, because if you're turning into a junction, 9 times out of 10 people actually want you out of the way rather than sat there guarding them. I've noticed that a lot. If you're not supposed to flag people across the road or anything like that. If you stop dead in a junction, you're either going to get rear-ended because someone's not expecting you to stop behind you and they're following you too close, or they're just going to want you out of the way anyway because it's safer for them for you to be not sat there. I'm sure you've got an opinion on that one, because it also applies for many roundabouts, which is a interesting one.
My opinion, quite clearly, is if you're driving a motor vehicle, no matter what motor vehicle be, or cycle, etc., anything like that, is you should always check junctions when you're turning into a junction. If you're turning left or right to a junction, you need to constantly check to ensure that A, there's no cyclist coming to the bloody inside if you're turning left. B, there's no cyclist deciding he wants to be a smart ass and going over the right-hand side if you're doing a right turn. Same as any vehicles trying to undertake or overtake you when you're trying to make a manoeuvre. If there's somebody standing at that junction to cross the road, in my personal opinion, is they should continue to stand at that junction until the car has gone by.
Yeah.
The simple fact, all it's going to take is for me or for any other driver to be approaching a junction and go, oh, look, there's a lovely little old deer there, or there's a lovely young lad there, or a lovely young lady there. What we'll do is we'll just give way to him. You stop your vehicle to give way to them across the road, and then a car or truck or anything ploughs up the back of you, and you're involved in an RTC. I think it's a dangerous rule, and I think it needs to be changed back. I think everybody has the responsibility when it comes to the roads, but as for that highway code change, I think it's ridiculous. And I tried the new highway code myself today, turning left into a junction.
Wow.
And surprise, surprise, the pedestrian was on the mobile phone, didn't even look up anyway, and just walked straight across the road at 2 or 3 miles an hour. What was the point in me stopping the vehicle? I could have made that junction, turned around and stopped causing a load of traffic behind me, and it would have been a lot smoother.
Yes.
But I'm sure that might change once there's been a fair few accidents.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, maybe it's time to rethink that one.
Because they brought in as well these new guidance for walking, cycling and riding in shared spaces. People cycling are now asked not to pass people walking, riding a horse or driving a horse-drawn vehicle closely or at high speed, particularly from behind. Slow down when necessary to let people walking know they are there, for example by ringing their bell, which 9 times out of 10 is not fitted to a bike. Remember that people walking may be deaf, blind or partially sighted, should I say. And do not pass a horse on the horse's left, which is strange. It is a shared space, but again, if it's a shared space, everyone should be looking out for everybody. That
Jordan, I think the reason why there's horses to the left is obviously if something generally happens with a horse,
does it tend
is
to
that
bolt to the
rider
right?
no, the rider will generally try to move the horse to the most quiet side, to the left-hand side of the road, out of danger, and into a position of safety to stop injuring anybody else. I mean, them horses hurt when they kick. Them horses can cause a lot of damage.
Yeah,
So
I'll give that
I
one.
think the reason why they say is keep it from the left is because 9 times out of 10, a horse rider will pull that horse to the left to calm it down, obviously to stop it from doing anything and bolting and doing anything stupid. Same as if you're on a motorway.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard this on the radio several times now. In my opinion, it's common sense. If you have a warning light on your dashboard and your vehicle loses power, you pull over to the left-hand side of the motorway. You get to a hard shoulder and you put your hazard lights on. If you're on a smart motorway, which aren't so smart, you pull over to the left-hand side of the motorway, get out of that vehicle as quick as you can, go across the barrier to your left-hand side and get to a point of safety. Or if you've got an escape lane or a breakdown lane on a smart motorway, if you can get your vehicle in that out of the way of traffic, get it into that breakdown lane, get out of your vehicle, but make sure you move over to the left-hand side.
The amount of people you see still sat in their car on the hard shoulder is mind-boggling.
It's not just people sat on the hard shoulder, Jordan. I think last week I was coming up the M56 and there was a vehicle broken down in the outside lane of the M56.
Oh, wonderful. Nice place to break down.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but that person or that individual needs to have the licence taken off him. All it takes is for another driver who lacks common sense, doing 100 plus miles an hour, which they do on the M56 quite regular, is to not see that vehicle till last second, plough into the back of it, and then you've either got 1, 2, maybe 3 deaths.
The other thing
for a few hours.
The other thing that I tend to see, and it is still on the hard shoulder though, is they'll get out of the car but then stand on the hard shoulder, the wrong side of the barrier, behind the car.
Yeah.
If something loses control, that barrier is not going to be much use behind you. It's designed that you stand behind it on the embankment. Anyway, so yeah, we can come back to motorways in a minute. Positioning in the road when cycling. Now, this is something that cyclists have been done for a while, anyway. But I think the way they've worded it made it quite open for a few cyclists to completely take the mick with it, and some have done strange things to take the mick out of the wording of it. But the updated code now says that the guidance for people cycling position themselves is riding in the centre of their lane. It wasn't originally the centre of the road on a lot of things, on quiet roads, in slower moving traffic, and at the approach to junctions or road narrowings, it's basically saying make sure they control the road. That's basically what it's saying. Don't put yourself in a corner. Keep at least 0.5 metres, just over 1.5 feet away from the curb edge, and further when it's safer, when riding on busy roads with vehicles moving faster than them. Cycling in groups, you should be considerate of all the needs of other road users when riding in groups. So in other words, if it's a narrow road, don't cycle in a group, let other vehicles pass you. Don't try and do the Tour de France. You can ride 2 abreast, and it can be safer to do so, in particularly in larger groups when accompanying children or less experienced riders. I've seen it done, and I've seen it done well, where they've come out 2 abreast, where there's been lots of road narrowings and stuff like that to stop people from overtaking them in stupid locations, and then they go back into a single file lane, which it's fine. People cycling has to be aware of people driving behind them and allow them to overtake, for example, moving into single file or stopping when it's safe to do so. That I've had it where cyclists just stop dead in the middle of the road to let you past, and there's no warning they're gonna stop dead. They just stop. So passing parked cars as well has been added into this, which is take care when passing parked cars, leave enough room for a door width or 1 metre, avoid being hit by a car door if it's open, and watch out for people walking into their path. I'm sure that 1 metre rule was there when I learnt to drive several years ago.
Mm.
I'm sure it was. But then they added also overtaking when driving or cycling. You may cross double white lines. I'm going to come to these in a minute on something else. Provided the road is clear. To overtake someone cycling or riding a horse if they're travelling at 10 mile an hour or less, which is rule 129. Now we all know we've all done it when they've been travelling more than 10 mile an hour. But there's been an update to the guidance on the distance and speed of people. So you now should give 1.5 metres, which is 5 foot, when overtaking people cycling at speeds of up to 30 mile an hour, and give them more space when overtaking at higher speeds. Which 5 feet is nearly 2 metres. That's 1.5 metres in it. It's quite a distance. Not all roads will allow for that. Passing people riding horses or driving horse-drawn vehicles at speeds under 10 mile an hour and allowing for at least 2 metres, which is 6.5 feet of space. Allowing at least 2 metres, 6.5 of space, and keeping at a low speed when passing people walking in the road, for example, where there's no pavement. Wait behind them and do not overtake if it's unsafe or not possible to meet these clearances. I've followed quite a few people where the drivers behind have got quite infuriated with me because I've not overtaken someone, because in my eyes, when you're driving a 30-foot long bus, a lot of the time it's quite difficult to get past some cyclists. I don't know what your opinion is on that one, but it can be quite difficult.
It can be. It can be very difficult. I don't know about yourself, Jordan, or if you're happy with doing this, but there's two in the highway code where, personally, I don't think we need to bring anything up on them. You've got people cycling at junctions.
Yeah, I was just looking at that one.
Yeah, you got people cycling, riding driving horse-drawn vehicles on roundabouts.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information to go on there, and I think if we start going down the route of giving all that information, it's going to be information overload, and people are just going to stop listening. Because, in my opinion, it's quite boring. And, yes, it's an interesting read, but I think, really, if anybody wants to look them ones up,
yeah,
then obviously the information is there, openly available on the .gov website. So it's the website, which is gov.uk. Go onto there, type in a search bar, just the highway code, and it comes up straight away. New story, the highway code has 8 changes you need to know from the 29th of January. There's also looking at here, an highway code where you can download a PDF format, or you can download the highway code off the government website rather than going out to WH Smith or Amazon or Tesco's or any reputable place where it sells the highway code to buy one. You can just download it for free on that website. I think the one we should bring up, obviously, is parking, charging, leaving vehicles.
Yeah.
The reason I think we should bring that one up is because people parking vehicles, obviously, not just the bus drivers, but truck drivers as well, can be quite hazardous, the way that some people park the vehicles. Yeah, and this just goes into facts, obviously. The code recommends new techniques when leaving vehicles. It's sometimes called the Dutch reach, where people driving or passing in a vehicle are able to do so. They should open a door using their hand on the opposite side of the door. They're opening, for example, using their left hand to open the door on the right hand side. This will make them turn their heads to look over their shoulder behind them. They're less likely to cause injury to people cycling or riding a motorcycle passing the road, and people on the pavement. It's a fair comment, and I think it's wise to do. Generally, I always look over my right shoulder before opening my driver's door, because you never know who's going to be up there anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
It says using an electrical vehicle charge point. For the first time, the code includes guidance about using electric vehicle charging points.
Ooh!
It states when using one, people should park close to the charge point
Without
and
hitting
avoid
it.
avoid creating a trip hazard for people walking from trailing cables. Now, I'm not sure what the what the implications are of somebody tripping over the charging wire, whether you're liable, whether the charging point's liable. So, personally,
That's quite an
just
interesting
tighten down as
question, though,
much as
that
you
one.
can, because who's going to be liable if somebody does trip over your charging cable? So, yeah, if you've got an electric vehicle, lucky enough to have one, well done for saving the planet, for one. And two, obviously, just to make sure you park up as close as you can so you've not got any trading cables. It does say display a warning sign if you can. I've not seen any warning signs about anybody saying this vehicle's on charge.
No, but you can't miss a big charge point at the side of the road or in a car park. They're quite
they're
easy
generally
to
quite
spot.
big. Yeah, and then it says return charging cables and connectors neatly to minimise the danger of people and avoid creating obstacles for other road users. Now, I've not seen any charging points on main roads which are going to cause any obstructions for road users. As for making sure things are tidied neatly, I think a lot of vehicles are charging cables which are stored in the back of the cars. And at the charging points where you do charge your car, I think it's a little at the bottom of our road or Aldi. There's one of the big leading supermarkets, and they've got charge points, and they've got cables which are only connected. You just pull the cable out, connect it up, as far as I've seen, and then you're good to go. So a lot of the time, I don't think there is going to be any issues with that.
No, yeah, because normally they're in a bay, aren't they? I know there's a few now cropping up on the street where you see the cables dangling from people's homes out of windows and stuff like that. It's
so. I think there's that one. I mean, there's also something I read not so long ago. Obviously, I can't remember where I've read it from, but there's something saying about obviously the use of mobile phone whilst driving.
Yeah, they've changed the
mobile phones whilst driving rule is you still don't use your mobile phone whilst driving. You can use your mobile phone as a fixed device, so you could use your mobile phone as a sat nav, as long as you're not touching your phone whilst driving and using any LCD apps or anything like that whilst driving. You can use your phone as a stationary device, such as a sat nav. The only other time you're allowed to touch your phone is when you're using contactless payments. As long as you're in a McDonald's, for example, for McDonald's drive-thrus or a drive-thru scenario, and you want to use contactless via your phone, either Android, Apple, or whatever. As long as you're in a drive-thru and you're on a private road at a drive-thru, the law has sort of been laxed ever so slightly to allow you to use a mobile phone, but only whilst in that situation. I think anybody who wants to use a mobile phone whilst driving is not only a danger to themselves, but a danger to a lot of other people on the road. And I wouldn't recommend anybody to do it at all.
No, and well, we've managed to go for quite a while now. I just want to touch on something else. It's sort of to do with the highway code, and I think it's not taught enough. Maybe because people, when learning to drive, don't come across it enough. But I've noticed it a lot now, travelling over the tops where a lot of it is double solid lined, is people's reaction to emergency services. And they seem to, people panic at the end of the day, and it can be quite frustrating sometimes when people do random things in front of you for no real reason, like stopping when the emergency service vehicle is coming the opposite way. Why? But it's people react in different ways. If you hear sirens, use your mirrors. Look for them. Look for indicators. They can be hard to spot, but they do use them. One of the big things, though, and I've seen the questions asked lots of different places on YouTube, comment sections and stuff like that, is can you be prosecuted for going through a red light to allow an emergency service vehicle through, or breaking the law in a different way to allow an emergency service vehicle through? The simple answer is yes. The fine upholds if you get caught by a red light traffic camera because you've gone through the camera to allow a fire engine or police car to go through, you will get fined and you will be held unless you can prove that you did it and that was the only option. I don't know if you've noticed, Scott, that the style of blue light driving is changing now, where they're a lot more patient, wait behind, and especially at like red traffic lights or on double solid lines, if there's nowhere for them to overtake, they'll just sit behind you with the blue lights on, or might even turn them off completely and then turn them back on when it's safe for them to get past you. I think one of the worst things... Go on.
What you said about blue light driving, yeah, I have noticed that. But again, it's just because a vehicle's got blue flashing lights and a siren. 1 second. Right, yeah, just
Googling.
No. Somebody's just asked me a question about work. That's all. Right, basically, if you are in front of a blue light vehicle, whatever emergency service it may be, it states, well, it used to state in the highway code. Obviously, if someone wants to check and clarify, you're welcome to, but I'm not willing to search right now. It used to be you can pull over to the left at a place of safety. Yeah?
Not stop dead.
Now, if you're a driver of a vehicle and you don't think it's safe to pull over to the left, then no matter how much them sirens are blaring, them lights are flashing, you just continue to go until you find a point of safety where you pull over to the left. As soon as you've found a safe and convenient place to pull over to the left, and pull over to the left and allow the emergency services to do their work and allow them to take the risk and allow them to make the manoeuvres. All you have to do is pull over to the left and let them do all the hard work. A lot of the time, and I know this from experience because my dad used to be an ambulance driver, he used to say the worst thing somebody could do is try to help them.
Yeah.
Because somebody thinking they're helping is causing more issues. And people panicking. My dad said you become a magnet.
Yeah.
Once you're driving with blue lights and a siren, you become a magnet for an accident because people panic.
I've had it.
Don't know what to do, and they slam the brakes on, or they pull over to the right, or they just block the road off thinking they're helping you. Just whatever you do, don't. Just pull over to the left-hand side as soon as it's safe to do so, and once it's safe to do so and you pulled over to the left, you've done your part of the job.
But do plan for other road users.
Just about anything else.
Because
yeah, just
because I've had it where I've had it where the car in front of me's pulled over, but then I've had nowhere to go, so now I'm blocking the road and I can't get past the car because he's pulled in stupidly. So you have to sort of think of the bigger picture. If I'm going to pull over here, is this going to cause an issue? If the answer is yes, keep going. If the emergency service vehicle's 400 feet behind you, you don't need. You just keep going for a little while, and it may pull off into a side street before it gets to you.
Yeah. And it's called forward planning.
Yeah, and if there's videos out there on YouTube about solid lines, I've got them up here now. It's bluelightaware.org.uk, and they cover solid lines, motorways, roundabouts, junctions, all of it. But just use your common sense. If you can move to get out of the way if you're at traffic lights or whatever, do, but try and not break any laws to do so. You don't want it backfiring. If the call the vehicle is going to is that imperative they get there very quickly, they will take the risk of going the wrong side of the traffic lights. If they're not willing to do that, they'll sit behind you. They'll turn the lights off and sit behind you. And that's what this blue light aware course, and if you ask any newer qualified blue light driver, that is what they're taught to do now. They're just taught to wait, because they can cause that accident by you going through the red lights, or them trying to push you through the red lights, or push you out in the roundabout, or whichever. As Scott said, it's just panicking. It's just one of them. I mean, even these say, if you stay out of bus lanes. Simple as. If you can't go in that bus lane because it's in operation, stay out of it. Let the emergency service vehicle use that bus lane instead. So yeah, I'd recommend going and having a look at the bluelightaware.org.uk site. And I think that's going to round it up because my tea is... Well, I said to be back for 9 o'clock, so...
Well, let's finish it off there, Jordan.
Yeah.
Nice speaking to you all. Hope you all enjoyed the podcast and look forward to speaking to you in a month's time.
Yes.
Hopefully, there'll be more of us at the next one.
I do hope so. And we will try and have an interesting topic for you next time. I'm sure we'll come up with something else.
If anybody has got any topics they want to bring up, or if anybody's got any talks, or anything they would want to discuss on a podcast, and obviously please contact Mancbuses. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to listen to, and we can try and go that. Maybe one day get a guest appearance, Jordan. Maybe one of the followers could obviously might want to get involved in a podcast, and they want to get involved. So if you are up to getting involved in a podcast and you do want to join in, obviously feel free to message us, and I'm sure that's something we could work on getting done.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something we can do. I'd quite like to get some of the patrons involved, so if you are a Patreon member as well, and you can get involved that way. But yeah, just message us. It's admin@mancbuses.com. All our contact details can be found on our website, mancbuses.com. And from us here, we'd just like to say thank you, as Scott said, and we shall see you. You'll hear us anyway next month for whatever we decide to talk about. Hopefully there'll be more of us and we can go a little bit elsewhere with some other stuff. So
yes, we can. And just before we go, just one last little thing. What, Jordan, we need to shout out.
Yes. I know exactly who you mean. I put it in the other group chat.
I can't find it. There we go. So it is.
It's this guy wanted a shout out, which is the South Yorkshire and Derbyshire buses.
That's the one. He's on YouTube.
Yeah, he's on YouTube. He does a lot of route videos, and he gave us a shout out on Twitter, I think it was, wasn't it? Or something, I can't quite remember.
I think he was a shout out on Twitter, and I think he's going to be giving us a shout out on YouTube. He joined us for a route, or one of the Manchester routes not so long ago. Jason did, and he's a great young lad. Has got a lot of knowledge about buses, trains, and all things what are on 4 to 6 wheels. He's only got 151 subscribers, but he wants more. So yeah, South Yorkshire and Derbyshire Transport is
buses.
the guy who... Sorry, yeah, that's the one. I can't seem to... there you go. Yeah, South Yorkshire and Derbyshire buses. If you can follow him, obviously please give him a follow, give him a like, watch a couple of his videos. I'm sure you'd be impressed with the content what he's got. It's just as good as Jordan's. So yeah, if you can, get online and obviously get checked.
There will be a link in the description for those that are listening on a computer, so you can get there. So that's everything. Thank you, and goodbye, good night, or good morning, whichever one you're having. Have a lovely day, and we'll see you out on the road at some point. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.